Hey there, everyone. It's Jillian. I have a very, very special announcement to make that I am just very excited to share. I am joining forces with one of the world's most incredible relationship coaches and confidence coaches and best-selling author, Matthew Hussey. Together, we are doing an online virtual event where we are going to set up your Year in Love 2025 as the most empowered, confident, secure, and fulfilling year ever, regardless of whether or not you're in a relationship or you're single or you're heartbroken. It does not matter. We're going to teach you stuff that we've never taught before. We're going to go over stuff in my book, It Begins With You, and we're going to answer your questions. And you had an opportunity to be coached by us. This is huge, and it is free with the purchase, or the pre-order purchase, I should say, of my book, It Begins With You. This is my gift from me to you because it means so much to me that you have taken the time to pre-order my book. That's a huge deal to me. And I really wanted to give you something in return. And this is going to be amazing. It'll be recorded. If you can't join live, it'll be January 19th, 2025. So you can bring your copy of It Begins With You to the event. And, yeah, all I can say is please do not hesitate. This will not be happening again. All you have to do is pre-order my book, or if you've already pre-ordered your book, then all you have to do is fill out the instructions. You go to the show notes, click the link. It'll give you very, very detailed instructions of how to put in your receipt to show that you purchased or pre-ordered It Begins With You. Then you'll get your ticket to the event, and you can also claim your other gift, which is my 23-page workbook, Choose Yourself. So please do not hesitate to join this incredible event with me and Matthew, and I just cannot wait to see you there. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about how to let go, especially of the person who you know is really not good for you. And for some of you, it could be someone who, brings out the worst in you. Being with them has been a very unhealthy experience for you. Part of my motivation to record this episode is I just know and have spoken to and get emails from so many people who are in relationships that are really, really not good, and whether they're being mistreated or they're so misaligned in what it is that they want. And I find it interesting. I mean, I feel very motivated and very passionate about helping people let go. You may have seen me or have seen some of my posts where I talk about why it's so important to prioritize someone's character over your connection with them and over charm. Because there's some of the most intelligent, exciting, good-looking people on the planet are also the most emotionally unsafe. It does not mean that if you are charming and good-looking and intelligent that you have low character. I mean, of course not. But what it does mean is that you have to really take the time to uncover a person's character. And the second part is when you do uncover it and it reveals itself to be weak, you have to not lie to yourself and you have to run very, very far in the other direction. I'll start with a story. I recently had dinner with a friend. She's been in and out of this relationship for over a year with someone who's incredibly charming, who treats her with a tremendous amount of disrespect. And it's when you combine someone with low character, with weak character, and what I mean by that is that they're dishonest. They don't treat others or themselves well. They don't have integrity, meaning their actions rarely match their words. A lot of people with weak character have a lot of the signs of someone who's just emotionally immature. Everything is always someone else's fault. But they can present as very normal, cool people. Certainly someone who's a narcissist has weak character. Doesn't mean that everyone with weak character is a narcissist. I think that we all have to, in many ways, look at ourselves in the mirror and see the ways that we can strengthen our own character. But someone who generally has weak character doesn't treat you with respect, doesn't treat people with respect. And even if they treat their parents with respect, but they don't treat you with respect, something's off with their character. When you combine someone with weak character who doesn't have the integrity and the kindness and the respect that we should all aim to embody, and you combine that with someone who's insecure. And what I mean by insecure is they don't completely love themselves. In other words, their self-esteem is low. And then you throw into the mix some beliefs like, this is the best that I can do, or the beliefs that tend to dominate a lot of people with low self-esteem. I don't deserve more. This is basically what I deserve. Or, maybe it's okay that they treat me like this. And so these people find each other. But what's really interesting is that we like in stories, we like to have a very clear victim and a very clear villain. We like that. It's part of our storytelling. And then we root for the underdog sometimes, and we root for the victim. We want the victim to become the hero. And we want the villain to somehow face repercussions for being a villain. And that is how our minds work. And when we get into these kinds of relationships, it's not 50-50. It's not like one person, it's not like both people are equally quote unquote toxic. But it's not so clear cut. The victim, it might be clear cut like who's more of the villain and who's more of the victim. But if we want to be able to heal and let go, we have to be able to see our role in the dynamic. And we have to be able to address it's such an overused word, but the unhealed, manipulative, toxic parts in ourselves that are driven by our insecurity, that make it so that we play games with the person who's unkind to us because we don't want to risk losing them. And so when I spoke to my friend, she was finally, we'll see, I think ready to move on because it was finally she had all this intuitive messaging going on inside her body that this whole time he was seeing someone else or seeing other women. I mean, he would do ridiculous things like they were so misaligned. She wanted, commitment. Everything that he would do would show that he doesn't want commitment. And so she would stay in it trying to convince him, trying to change him, trying to change herself, lying to herself that, maybe it would change. And it was only until she actually got confirmation that he has been seeing multiple women and would leave her apartment and then text someone else and say, I love you. Sometimes we have to get to that point where we reach such a bottom with someone that we eventually let them go. But she's finally starting to heal. And her healing is not because she's walking away from this person. Her healing is because she's finally able to say, I understand my role in all this. Because her story used to be, this guy is doing this guy's doing that. And then might be, well, maybe it's okay. She would go back and forth between defending him and then villainizing him. And these stories that we tell ourselves, these confabulations, which are not based on total lies, but they are a stretch of the truth to the point where it does actually become an untruth. In my many, many years of helping people leave situationships, which are basically these relationships that are not really relationships. It's like you think you're exclusive with someone, you think you're monogamous with someone, you think that you're just seeing this other person, but you know that they're not all in. Or you keep getting together, you keep getting back, breaking up and then getting back together again. And there's no security at all. It always amazed me, because I've been here too. It amazes me how sometimes the most insecure person, and what I mean by insecure is, doesn't feel good enough for someone to treat them well. They will make the choice to be with someone who makes them feel more insecure. Instead of what would be more logical is, well, I'm insecure, so I really should be with someone who really sees my worth, my value, so that I can feel safe with them. But love in matters of the heart isn't quite rational. So for the purpose of today's episode, I want to go over 7 things for you to consider and for you to look at in order for you to let someone go, particularly letting someone go where you are, where it's been a very difficult relationship. Maybe it's unhealthy. Maybe it's toxic. Maybe you're wondering if the person's a narcissist or not. Maybe there's just a lot of fighting, and if you know deep down that this is not right. Maybe it's you want to get married, they don't want to get married, or you feel like you're in this situationship, which again just means you're in something where you want more and they're resisting more, and your emotional center of gravity as a result of this person being in your life and you being in their life is anxiety. And so the first truth that we have to be able to face and to look at is, if you're in a relationship or in a situation and your emotional center of gravity is anxiety, there is something wrong. And sure, there are times and situations and circumstances where someone might have so much trauma from past experiences. Someone may have been betrayed, that they feel very anxious in a relationship. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but more times than not, it is indicative of the fact that something is wrong. A lot of people will break up with that person, feel a lot more peace, but then let that person back into their life. And why is that? Well, this is not an easy thing to say, but it's because there is a sort of addiction to the drama of it all. It is so important that when we are in these circumstances and we can't, and I have nothing but compassion and empathy for struggling in a relationship that you shouldn't be in, or you keep taking someone back and you shouldn't. But I also in no way can encourage you to see yourself as a victim. You have autonomy over your life. And the quality of our relationships is dependent on the quality of our choices. And we can feel connected to someone for whatever reason. Usually it's chemistry. Maybe that connection has something to do with an absent father or an absent mother. We can have that and still make the choice to no longer be in a relationship with someone. So you have actually more power over the quality of your love life than you think you do. And your past does not define you. Sure, it might mean working with a therapist to help you sort of untangle and deconstruct and understand and fully penetrate the depths of whatever it is you experience in your childhood that is coming up in your adult romantic relationships. And there's great value in that. But I don't want you to get trapped in that analysis without actually taking action. And the only way that we take action is when we feel something inside of us called motivation. And that motivation comes from being in a different emotional state where we believe in ourselves, we can create with maybe the help of someone else, a compelling future, something to look forward to. It also comes with skills like communication and creating boundaries, and it might come with leaning on your loved ones and leaning on a therapist or a coach. But it is entirely possible to let go. But the reason why you're not, and the reason why my friend wasn't, is because she wasn't actually pursuing the things in her life that really give her life meaning. She holds herself back. You see, when we are trapped in these cycles of unhealthy relationships with another person and we can't seem to get out of it, that relationship more often than not is a metaphor for other things that are not working in someone's life or other things that are not happening in a person's life. The amount of times, and I've experienced this too, that I've seen people, instead of pursuing their dreams, instead of pursuing their potential in life, they're distracting themselves with the intermittent, ego-boosting, dopamine-hitting relationship or person on the side. And that's because when we are in an unhealthy dynamic with someone and we can't let go, guess what? They can't let go of you either. And when we chronically don't feel enough for someone, if we're getting the sense that they're seeing someone else, if they don't commit, if they are, they don't have both feet in, if they don't call you back, they chronically don't return your texts, if they're not making plans for the future with you, if you constantly feel like your core needs of love are just not being met, no matter how much you communicate, when they're not letting you go, evidenced by you break up and then they keep coming around, or they come back and then tell you how wonderful you are and let's try to work this out, but nothing really changes. That fills a void inside a person. That's like, oh, maybe I am important. Because there is some satisfaction, or I should say a lot of satisfaction, that our egos get when someone, even when we know they're not good for us, when they can't seem to let us go. It's in those moments that we feel a little regain of power. And all unhealthy relationships are defined by power struggle. Now, that doesn't mean that relationships might go through periods of some power struggle, but unhealthy relationships, toxic relationships are all defined by a power struggle. And for some people, they feel totally disempowered with the person who they want more from, but they feel incredibly in control and empowered in the bedroom. So they maintain this relationship with them where they feel anxious all the time, except when they're using their sexuality. And all I ask of people is to get really honest with yourselves about what it is that you want. If you want that committed relationship, then you have to look at the choices that you're making. And if the choices that you're making are getting you closer to what it is that you want, or are they moving you farther away from what it is that you want? And in the example of my friend, in the example of so many people, they say they want this, but their actions do not match what it is that they say that they want. And that is when we have a breakthrough moment, hopefully, and we think, maybe I'm standing in my own way. I don't like to say maybe the problem is me, but we do have to be able to, maturity, wisdom, true emotional growth comes the moment that we are able to say to ourselves and to our closest confidants, perhaps I am contributing to my suffering. Perhaps it's not that this person is so manipulative and won't let me go. Perhaps that is true, and it's also true that I kind of like that they're not letting me go. And I kind of like how that feels when they come back to me. And I kind of like the disruption that has in my life, just enough to distract me from the things that I am not completing in my own life, that I have suppressed so deeply inside. And I don't have to look at it. The only way to truly let go of this kind of scenario, like the really tough scenarios, is to get very honest with ourselves. And that is what I'm here to do, to help you do, to literally be your coach in this scenario as best as I can. So here are the things to consider. One, right? How am I contributing to this problem? Is there a part of me that likes this? Is there a part of me that is neglecting? Maybe it's my work life, maybe it's my family life, whatever it is. Am I not reaching my potential? And how much does this relationship distract me from my life and the things that I want to accomplish in life? Because a relationship should actually make it so that we have more breathing room and space in our lives. But when we get into these unhealthy dynamics, our lives get very, 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 very small, because we become obsessive about the other person, and all the other things about what matters to us, our needs, our potential, goes by the wayside. But the manipulative person can't manipulate you unless you are a willing participant in that. And I know that that's very, very hard to hear, but I'm here to help you bring whatever is unconscious into more of your awareness. Number 2, beliefs. Our beliefs truly determine like the quality of our lives. The beliefs that all men are like this, the beliefs that all women are like that, the beliefs that you can't do any better, or this is the best that you can do, or you don't deserve better. We have to challenge those beliefs. And so if you're in something and you're not able to let go, it could be, I'm going to be alone forever. I'm going to be lonely. You know, there's not a lot of people out there. The person who believes that there's plenty of fish in the sea is the person who can let go pretty easily to the wrong people, the wrong situations, the wrong job. But the person who doesn't believe that there's any fish in the sea is going to cling, even if it means being unhealthy while clinging. No one will lie to you more than you will lie to yourself. And we think that the person, let's say a manipulative person comes into our life. And by manipulative, every time you express a grievance or an insecurity or a concern, they say things like, you're crazy. It's basically gaslighting. You need to feel more secure in yourself. It's all about you need to change. That is why you're having this complaint. All the while, that other person is actually seeing other people, being dishonest, doing a lot of drugs. I mean, that is truly, and not every unhealthy relationship involves like that kind of manipulation, but that's some pretty hardcore manipulation. And that is what's going on. And that's what's going on with so many people. And that was going on with my friend. But she would also play some games too. Oh, he's not going to be that into me. Let me call my ex. Oh, he's going to ignore me tonight. Let me see if I can hang out with this person. And it's that constant need for getting back at the person. It's the dance of the ego. It's not being honest. It's like, let me see if I can get them back. Let me see if I can hurt them back. The moment we can be very, very honest with ourselves is the moment that the healing starts to go like this, as opposed to like that. Meaning it really starts to go at an upward motion versus couple steps forward with 7 or 8 steps back. You have to stop playing the game with yourself that this is enough for you. You have to stop telling yourself the lie that, you know, maybe this person will change. You have to stop telling yourself that your connection is so strong with this person. Because if your connection is really strong with someone who doesn't treat you well, then that needs to be investigated pretty thoroughly. And it's one of the conundrums of life. We will sometimes have connections with people and it's not the right person. And this is why I've said to walk away from someone you care about or someone who you feel connected to, who cannot meet your most basic needs, is one of the bravest acts you can do, because for some people, it takes everything they have to challenge the beliefs that they're not good enough, to challenge the belief that maybe they're going to be alone forever. These fears, these beliefs that are entrenched in fears. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to choose oneself when you are so used to not, and lying to yourself and lying to the other and getting caught up in a totally vicious cycle of power struggle with this person. And so the only way you're going to let go of someone who's unhealthy for you is by you becoming healthier. And by that, I mean finding the courage within yourself, acknowledging the ways in which this has been fulfilling some of your needs for drama and adventure and all these things. And then looking at how you can fulfill those needs in healthier ways that doesn't involve the distraction of just chaos. In what way can you see that this person is just not a good person? And that takes me to the next point. Part of getting healthier is understanding that it's not actually supposed to be this way. And so many of us have not had the right models of relationships, starting with our parents. And maybe we didn't see it in our siblings, and maybe we don't really see it in our community and our friends, of what actually a stable relationship looks like. But you have to surround yourself with that. Even if it's out of a movie, I don't even care. You have to be able to see what respect looks like. Part of it is our naivete and not truly understanding what it means to be loved and to love another person. And when we are doing love, and when someone is doing love for us, if someone is actually actively loving us, they are respecting us. And they are giving us the freedom to be ourselves. And they are listening to us. And they are collaborating with us. They're not always agreeing with us. And they might challenge us. But they're not challenging us to the point where we feel chronically not good enough. And so being able to look in the mirror, your beliefs that are keeping you trapped in this cycle, the games that you might be playing as well with this person, and the lies that you're telling yourself about it. What's the story that you're telling yourself about this whole scenario? Oh, I don't know, we're so connected, or I don't know, like then I have to meet someone else. Whatever it is, you have to be able to examine the things that you're telling yourself, because it's the things that we tell ourselves that keep us trapped in these types of situations. And even if you're not in an unhealthy relationship, but it's a relationship that's ending and you want to, move on and let go, you have to look at the story that you're telling yourself. Sometimes we need to let someone go in order to choose ourselves. Sometimes staying in the relationship is choosing ourselves, but for today specifically, we have to let someone go to choose ourselves. And that literally means that we are choosing to pursue the things in our life that is going to give our life meaning, that's going to maybe make it so that we are more emotionally reliant on ourselves. That doesn't mean that you don't need anyone else, but it means that you're no longer outsourcing your love and security to someone who cannot give it to you. So have you been playing it small in your work life? Are you actually living the life that you want to live? How might being in this relationship be preventing you from actually realizing your dreams and pursuing certain dreams of yours, goals? Have you been, killing yourself working in a certain profession where you are undercharging everyone because you feel bad to raise your prices because there's a part of you that believes that you're not worthy of that? how are you keeping yourself small? And how has being in this kind of relationship distracting you from doing the real work that you need to do to feel more fulfilled in your life and to feel like you are reaching your potential? Because when we start to address these things in our life, our self-esteem goes up. And when our self-esteem goes up, we are not as interested in participating in relationships that feel like shit. And I understand that none of this is necessarily an overnight process. But I do want you to recognize that you have the strength and the power within you to walk away, to choose yourself, to let go. But you first have to see how you're getting in your own way and then step out of the way. Character over connection, character over charm. Like I said in the beginning, some of the most emotionally immature and perhaps even the most emotionally dangerous to us are some of the most exciting people on the planet and charming. And when we meet someone who presents themselves as normal, or you have a friendship with them, or there's certain things you like about them, but then all these other things are showing up and our emotions are entangled, it's very difficult to untangle. But this is why it's so important to pay attention to these red flags, if you will. If someone is always disappointing you, never following through on their promises, if they are not inviting you, you're seeing them consistently and then all of a sudden they're not available, or they're not inviting you to certain things, or they only want to see you in private, if they're not integrating you into their daily lives, if they say one thing and do another, if you're constantly doubting yourself and questioning yourself every time you have a conversation with them, sometimes you are going to feel a connection with someone who doesn't have strong character. But the person with really, really weak character is never going to treat you right, is never going to lead with kindness, is never going to lead with safety and respect. And if you continue to play the game with them, you're going to wake up 1 year, 5 years, whatever, and you're going to be much older and realize you're still in it. And life is going to get 10 times harder for you then than it is now just to let them go. So you must always prioritize a person's character over their charm and over the connection that you have with them. And in your pursuit of someone with strong character, at the same time, we all have to be working on the ways in which we can strengthen our own character. Because, listen, our actions are not always 100% aligning with our words. We are not always treating others with the respect that they deserve. We have to call it like it is. But we can do better. And there are people who are not doing that on a chronic level. And they're emotionally dangerous. One of the things that struck me the most with my friend and with the countless people who I've worked with on this, and also some of the comments that I've seen on social media. For the last year, my friend has been telling me, something just doesn't feel right. And I would always say, you can trust your body. You can trust that. You can trust that. You have to listen to that. And this is someone who is very connected to her body in many ways. And then when she found out that actually she was seeing someone else who she was very suspicious of, she felt validated. She's like, oh, I was right. And so I asked her, what were some of the things that you were telling yourself when you were feeling that anxiety and that nervousness, that anxiety that maybe he was not being totally loyal to you? What are some of the things that you told yourself? I told myself that I was being neurotic, she said. I told myself that that I was anxious attachment. I was told myself that I should learn how to be more secure and to feel more safe. I was telling myself, maybe I need to go to therapy in order to deal with this jealousy. I was telling myself, I'm having these fears because, I lost my father when I was very young. And this is the danger that we are all in, which is instead of listening to our bodies, we pathologize the shit out of ourselves. We take all this pop psychology language and look, I understand. Look, attachment theory, trauma, all these things are very relevant and very important. But it's gotten to the point where people are, and I'm going to use a term that's overused, but people are gaslighting themselves into denying the feeling that they have in their body. And I've had many people say, well, what if you can't trust your body? It's so dysregulated, blah, blah, blah. I understand that those things happen, but you can trust your body more than you think. And if you do suspect that maybe you're very dysregulated, then you speak to someone, you speak to trusted counsel. Because this is the next thing that I will say about this. Her most important friends, and what I mean by most important, are the ones who really know her and actually are objective with her. Her therapist, family members, they were all telling her, this is a bad guy, this is a bad situation. When you have the most important people in life whose opinion you really value, and you know that when they give you advice, it is because it is very grounded advice. And it's not rooted in jealousy and they're not projecting left and right, and you may only have a couple people who can give you that kind of advice. But when these people are telling you this person is not good, you're in a bad situation, you better listen. Because the people around you actually know a thing or two. Now, of course, there are scenarios where I would say, don't listen to your friends. They're not giving you good advice because, they're listening to someone on social media, or their lives are not in order, or whatever. Or they're jealous, or they have beliefs about men or women that's clouding their judgment of your scenario. Of course, that's the situation. But when you've got those core group of people who give really good advice, who can see things clearly and can be objective with you, and who love you and care about you, and they're all telling you this is not a good scenario, you have to listen. Because they know what they're talking about, and they can see things that you cannot see. So when your body is giving you when you're getting tiny little metaphorical heart attacks all the time from being with someone, if you can barely sleep at night, if your mind is constantly obsessing over this person, something is wrong, and you can trust it. And you have to trust it. But like I said, no one will lie to you more than you lie to yourself. And this is where we have to get very, very clear with ourselves. Can I listen to myself right now? Am I suppressing this? How honest can I be with myself right now? Do I need to speak to someone to help me be more honest with myself? If something doesn't feel right, typically it's not. Now, again, you might be someone who has a lot of jealousy issues, a lot of obsessing issues, all that keeps coming up in every relationship. Then you know that this is something that you struggle with. And again, speak to trusted counsel. But you can't just say, well, I've had a lot of trauma, so I can't trust my body. You have to train yourself to trust your body. You have to train yourself to listen. And even if that takes a long time, and even if that means talking to a lot of people about it, you still have to trust. That's still how you learn how to trust yourself. The body knows more times than it doesn't. So I want to encourage you to challenge the story that you're telling yourself, to explore why you might still be in this, what kind of distraction, what needs is this meeting? How good does it feel to have this person, even though they're not loyal to you, or even though it's not going well, or even though, you want something, they don't want it. How good does that feel that they keep coming back? And I knew the moment my friend was able to admit all this, I knew this was like the first step truly towards healing for her. And I could see it, I could feel it, she could see it, and she could feel it. And I'll add one more thing, because I think it's important. Putting aside toxicity. When your values are so misaligned with someone, let's say you take care of your body and health is a high value of yours, and this person is out all night, doing coke or drinking or whatever it is. That's a huge values misalignment. Your core values need to be aligned. You do not want the exact same person. The differences are really important. But in terms of what's really deeply important to you, of how you want to live your life, of what really matters to you, of what a life well lived is, of what a relationship, how you want a relationship to actually be. These things need to be aligned. And no matter how much connection you have with someone, no matter how much chemistry you have with someone, you can't force someone to value things that you don't value and vice versa. You can't force them to value things that you value. You have to be able, if you want long-term relationship, this is incredibly, incredibly important. And I know that it's very difficult to let go. But you are stronger than you think. And you don't need someone else to fill the void. You just have to get more ambitious about having your own back. And more ambitious about your healing. And more ambitious about having a life that feels good rather than feels like constant drama. And so for this, if you're really resonating with my friend's story and with this whole episode, you got to cut them off. And that's really the only way to move forward. So that's it for this week's episode of Jillian on Love. I really want all of you to enter 2025 making choices for yourself that align with what really feels right to you. And I really want you to have the courage to let go of the types of relationships that are unhealthy for you, and to take responsibility and heal the parts that have been drawn to these kind of relationships. And just to steer your life in a direction towards healthier relationships, because you deserve it. And the paradox is that our insecurity will get us into these kind of relationships, but insecurity is not a pathology. You can overcome it, but sometimes what we have to do is take a really firm stand, look at ourselves very clearly in the mirror, and these are the types of steps that we take to raise our self-esteem. Because then we can say, you know what? I don't need that charming person. I've done the work, and I am done with participating in these types of relationships. And even if it means that I just have to get a lot of help or get a new job, whatever it is, I'm going to do it. So I want to hear from you. And I would bet that there's someone who you know who could really benefit from listening to this episode. And if that's the case, please do not hesitate to send it to them, because you never know whose life you could be changing for the better just by clicking share. And I definitely want to hear from you. I want to know if you're in this kind of scenario. I want to know what beliefs you're needing to challenge or what hard truths you're needing to face. And letting go is really not easy, but if you can see that on the other side of that is the life that you want, you will feel much more motivated to let go. And it is a day-by-day process. Thanks for listening, and until next time.